Welcome to the Kure Process Optimization Path application demo. Today we're going to walk through the creation of a quick win project. We'll start this by selecting Create a Project on the menu, the Create Project button, and it's going to ask you for a title for your project. Give it a name that is descriptive, makes sense to you. The app is going to walk us through a series of simple questions to help you build your project. Next, it's going to ask you what type of path you want to take. In this case, we're going to do a quick win basic improvement project. We're going to start this process by defining your project. You'll notice here on this screen, we'll just name this process a common name that's used to describe the work that's done in the workplace. You'll notice across the top of the screen, we've got a map of the process optimization path. What's my opportunity? What's my process? What's causing my problem? What's my solution? You're going through here and answering some basic questions to build a charter, the definition of your project. It's asking you what your process does, give it a description of how it takes inputs and creates the outputs. So a few words to describe what's actually happening. You'll have a process owner we've talked about earlier, the person that manages or is responsible for the process. All the things that are critical to define what we're doing, why we're doing it, and who's involved. You may have a team. If you do, we'll list those here. Often a quick win project can be an individual project, so you may not. So that's why it's optional. You'll notice we're typing in the email addresses that'll become apparent later. As we finalize this, those individuals will be invited to join you in this project. So by hitting next, the application is building your project charter. Here's the description of the project. If it's all in order, you hit next. You have confirmation to invite your team members, and you're on to the improvement process. Next stage, what's my process? So here you're going to identify how the work is actually done. We're going to use a swim lane process map to do that. You'll notice we're filling out the swim lanes now. The swim lanes are the roles or people involved in the process, roles, functions, or individuals. It starts out with 3. You could have 2 to 7 we see typically. Normally 2, 3, or 4 is enough to kind of describe most processes that we've been working on. Next, you're going to actually outline the process steps as they're currently performed in the workplace. We'll start with a reasonably detailed process map, 7 to 15 steps. No need to go into too much more detail at this point. You want to build this with your team, try to capture as accurately as possible what's happening. You'll review that with team members, other subject matter experts as well. This will be a key foundation for our improvement in your project. We'll use this as the basis of the analysis going forward, as well as generating improvements to improve this process. So this will change or may change over time as you make improvements to your flow. You'll continue to outline this with the steps that each of the functions perform in that process. Now we're going to make sure that the process flow is clear. We're going to do that with the arrows, these snap-in-place arrows to kind of go from one step to the next to really outline how the work flows from step to step and through the various functions involved. So this process map is exportable. You can print this out and share that with the team members and stakeholders for their review and feedback. Once you complete this process map, it takes you to the next step, which is the process walk. Again, a further understanding of what's going on in the current process by walking that process and identifying opportunities for improvement. So this process map is kind of a planning phase to make that happen. So as we go to the next step and we do the process walk, we're actually going to document our observations. So as you watch this screen and you'll notice the inputs here, the team is walking the process, whether it's a physical process or a virtual process, walking through the steps of the process, identifying opportunities for improvement using the 8 wastes or other process complexities that are listed in the drop-down. We're going to categorize those by these categories you see here. And we're also going to prioritize them by the impact they have on the process, high, medium, or low, based on the impact they have on the process relative to the problem we're trying to solve. And if you need any notes to further clarify this, you've got a space to capture that there. This will be your log, if you will, of all the observations. We'll do a few here in the demo, but you may have numerous. You want to capture as many as you can, and then you want to prioritize these. So we work on the most important opportunities first. The application is going to carry these forward into two different branches. One we'll talk about in just a moment. If you've got a disorganization opportunity that where the chances to reorganize and improve that organization can drive improvement in the process, that's a specific path. Then there'll be another path where we do a root cause analysis to help us get down to a specific level of detail. And the app will take care of that for you as we go forward when we go to the next step, which will be what's causing my problem. But first, capture all your opportunities here with enough detail. As you notice, disorganization was a key category. That's the one that will take us to the 5S, the organization step. And we put a note that the staff was frustrated with this. So the app recognizes that. So the next thing we're going to do is go to a tool called the 5S. But before we do that, we're going to talk about baselining this process. So before we start making any changes, we're going to take a snapshot. Here we'll upload a photo of the workplace. In this case, since we identified this organization, we'll take a picture of that workstation and load that here. This will be used later in a before and after comparison. Now we'll move on to the 5S I mentioned before. This is part of the tool technique for addressing process or disorganization to help it be better organized, more intuitive to the process and the people that work in the process, and to facilitate process flow. The 5S gets its name because there's 5 steps in the methodology. It's basically sort, which we're talking about here, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. Five steps that you go through to address a specific disorganized area. In the sort step, what we typically do is look at all the items in the workplace and decide if they need to stay, if they're vital to the work, or if they're unnecessary or excessive. And we'll sort those out. Some things are obvious and we'll take those away, either discard them or put them in another spot. Others we have questions about. So we're going to do something called a 5S red tag. There we're going to say, all right, we're not sure, just in case we might need it. We're going to move those to a special area, mark them with a red tag, and we're going to observe those. If we need them, we'll bring them back in, and we'll find a way to put them back into the process in a more organized way. Or if we find we don't need them, they'll be discarded or stored somewhere else. And so you agree as a team, what those items are, how long they need to be in that red tag quarantine area. It's usually a few days. You don't want to make it excessive, and you'll manage that. So this is the area where you'll log these and manage these items. We'll complete those. You may have numerous items in your red tag. We'll kind of document those, as many as we need, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. You would continue on with your 5S. That's one path. The other path I alluded to is the root cause analysis. So here is just that. We call it the 5 whys. For the other opportunities that were identified in the process walk, those are carried forward into this 5 why discussion. Here we're going to be asking the question why, to go from a higher level kind of issue, a problem, to try to get down to a root cause. In other words, something that's very specific, that's verifiable, and that's actionable. We'll call that a root cause. So what you're seeing here is kind of the questioning process, the team or the project leader is going through, asking the question why, and kind of responding with an answer. The decision on the right is one of 3 choices: continue, ask more whys, or no, I've gone far enough, I've got to a root cause, or no, I've got to a dead end. So this does not take me where I could get to anything I can act on. So that's kind of a dead end. We'll go through the other opportunities and address those. So we'll complete this questioning process. Sometimes it may take 1 or 2. Sometimes it may take 5 or 6 questions. 5 whys is the common label for this technique that you'll see in a lot of the literature. So again, asking the question why till you get to a level that you and the team agree that you've reached a root cause and you can actually do something about it. This will be the basis of focus, if you will, when we move on to the solution phase. You'll notice as we walk through this, one of the things we've done is done a logic check. So we've kind of walked through the questioning process. So to finalize this, we'll go to this right side and kind of read through those questions and make sure that logic makes sense. There's no holes. If we agree, then we're ready to move on to the solution phase. So the apps takes us to the final phase of the process. What's my solution? For each of those root causes that were identified, you may have 2, you may have 10. It's asking you for your quick win ideas. And so we suggest you generate as many ideas as you can, thinking about quick wins and the criteria around a quick win, and then put your best into this form and analysis. As you put these ideas in, you're going to screen them one more time to make sure they meet the quick win criteria. You must answer yes for all these. It must be a solution that meets all this criteria. Otherwise, it's not a quick win. So you may want to capture that idea. so you have it in your documentation, and it may be a great idea to pass on to a larger project that takes more time, because we're saying basically if it doesn't meet this criteria, it's either too risky, takes too long, needs a little bit more analysis in the process, or we don't have control over it. So it needs to go somewhere else if it's a good idea. More on that later. But here we're going to just focus on the ones that we do identify as quick wins. Here we've identified a couple. We click yes and go. The next thing that would happen in your project is you would actually develop an implementation plan, implement those quick wins, finish your 5S, and here we do the after picture, upload that into the process. So that same photo we did earlier in the before, we'll repeat that in the after, so we have that before and after comparison going forward. That's really the last step of the improvement side of it. Now we're going to actually talk about controlling this process, sustaining it, and closing it out. So it's going to ask, much like we did in the charter, a few simple questions that we answer, and then we'll actually have our stakeholders, our process owner, our supervisor review these and make sure they meet their understanding and approval. And that gives us the means to close this project out and start to wrap up the activity. We'll identify our sponsor. If they're not already on the team, they're going to be tagged for this. Process owner, you'll recognize the names. We'll ask them to kind of agree or disagree. If they disagree, then there's more work we need to do, and we'll close that loop and do that work. Once we've completed that and hit next, then we've got a handoff summary, which just documents for the record, what we've done, the improvements that we made, or the results that we received, the controls we put in place, and the agreement of our process owner and supervisor that those are satisfactory, that we have actually completed what we said we've completed. So we'll enter that here. Once that's done, as we move on and we've agreed that it's complete, we move on to the next phase of the process, and actually the final step, which is a project summary. So again, the app is moving us through the process optimization path, quick win path in this case, and here's our project summary. It's the story of the project from the beginning, the project name, the process, what the process is intended to do, our team, the opportunities we found, the improvements that we've made, and the results. All in a nice summary. This is exportable as well. As you complete this, as we all agree, then basically you've completed your project. That's logged in your system. Congratulations, you've just completed your quick win project. You're recognized, and for you, you've just completed your tour of Kure's process optimization path quick win project. Well done.